Marcus Chen was having a bad day. It started when his coffee machine broke, continued when he missed his shuttle to work, and now he was stuck trying to find a missing container somewhere in the massive New Geneva orbital station. Container 4471B, he muttered, looking at his scanner. Medical supplies. Diabetic medication. How hard can it be to find one container? Very hard, apparently. Marcus had been a cargo inspector for 5 years. He knew every corridor and storage bay in the station. But today nothing made sense. His scanner kept pointing him in weird directions. The container should have been in Bay 7, it wasn't. Then it should have been in Bay 12. Also not there. Now his scanner was telling him to go down a corridor he had never seen before. Marcus frowned at the device. The corridor looked strange. The walls seemed to shimmer slightly like heat waves on a hot day. The lights were different too. Not the normal white LEDs, but something softer, almost golden. This can't be right, Marcus said to himself, but the scanner insisted. The little arrow on the screen pointed straight ahead. The distance reading said he was only 50 meters from the container. Marcus shrugged. Maybe this was a new section. The station was always expanding. He walked forward. The moment he stepped into the corridor, something felt different. The air tasted strange. Not bad, just different. Like ozone after a thunderstorm. His footsteps echoed in a way they shouldn't. The corridor seemed longer than it looked. Marcus kept walking. The scanner said 40 meters, then 30, then 20. He reached what looked like a door at the end of the corridor. It wasn't like the normal doors on the station. This one was covered in patterns that seemed to move when he wasn't looking directly at them. There was no handle, no keypad, no button. Great, Marcus said. A fancy door with no way to open it. But as he stood there, the door simply opened. It didn't slide sideways like normal doors. It just stopped being there. One moment it was solid, the next moment it wasn't. Marcus looked at his scanner. 10 meters to the container. It had to be on the other side. He walked through. The room beyond was not a storage bay. It was not anything Marcus had ever seen before. The space was huge, bigger than any room should be inside a space station. The ceiling stretched up so high he couldn't see the top. The walls curved in impossible ways. And floating in the air throughout the room were beings. Marcus stopped walking. His mouth fell open. There were dozens of them. Some looked almost normal, like people, but taller and covered in smooth blue skin. Some were just balls of light pulsing with different colors. One looked like it was made of water, constantly flowing but keeping a shape like a person. Another was a collection of floating geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. There was something that might have been a cloud of insects moving as one, and something else that looked like a living shadow. They were all staring at him. The room had gone completely silent. Whatever conversation had been happening before Marcus arrived had stopped instantly. Marcus looked down at his scanner. It showed nothing. The screen was blank except for one word blinking in the center. Error. Marcus said. Sorry, wrong room. I'm looking for container 4471B. Has anyone seen it? Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. They just stared. One of the light beings floated closer. It pulsed brighter, and a voice came from everywhere at once. A human here, in the Hall of Echoing Eternity. The Hall of what? Marcus asked. Look, I think there's been a mistake. I'm just a cargo inspector. I'm trying to find some medical supplies. A being that looked like it was made of crystal moved forward. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. The gate opened for him. The predecessor gate that has not allowed passage in 10,000 cycles. Gate? Marcus looked back. The door he had come through was gone. The corridor was gone. There was just a wall with those same moving patterns. Oh no. I need to get back. I have reports to file. The geometric shapes rearranged themselves into something like a face. When it spoke, the voice was mechanical and precise. This council convenes only for species that have achieved legendary status. The gate allows only legends to pass. How did a human enter? Marcus's confusion grew. I just walked through. The door opened. The door has not opened for 3,000 years, the crystal being said. It opens only for those who have proven themselves beyond measure. For those who have defeated galaxy-ending threats. For those who have transcended mortal limitations. For legends. I think your door is broken, Marcus said helpfully, because I'm definitely not any of those things. I inspect cargo containers. Yesterday I spent 4 hours checking paperwork for a shipment of industrial sponges. The beings began speaking to each other. Some of the voices were sounds Marcus could hear. Some were feelings more than sounds. Some were colors that somehow meant words. The humans are the newcomers, one said. They only achieved faster-than-light travel 37 cycles ago. They are not in our records as legendary, another added. Yet the gate opened, the crystal being insisted. The gate does not make mistakes. In 10 million years it has never allowed passage incorrectly. The ball of light that had spoken first pulsed thoughtfully. Perhaps the humans are legendary and hide it well. Perhaps this is a test of our perception. I'm not hiding anything, Marcus said, his voice rising slightly. I'm literally just lost. Can someone please tell me how to get back to my station? A being that looked like a small star floating in space spoke with a voice like thunder. What world do you come from, human? Earth, Marcus said. Why? Earth, the crystal being repeated. It made a sound like thinking. Classification in our database, hazard level 9, death world. Gravity 1.0. Nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere with trace toxins, tectonic activity, extreme weather systems, abundant predatory life forms. That's just normal, Marcus said. That's what planets are like. Several beings made sounds of surprise. He thinks death world conditions are normal, one whispered. They evolved there, another said with what might have been awe. They survived to sentience on a Class 9 hazard world. Marcus was getting frustrated. Look, I really need to go. My shift ends in 3 hours and I still haven't found that container. The geometric being shifted again. He speaks of mundane duties even here. Is this composure? Or incomprehension? Maybe both, the crystal being suggested. A new being moved forward. This one was harder to describe. It seemed to be made of angles that didn't quite make sense, existing in more directions than should be possible. When it spoke, Marcus felt the words more than heard them. I am the adjudicator of ages, it said. This human has entered the Hall of Legends. By the ancient law, he must either prove his species worthy of legendary status or face judgment for the intrusion. Intrusion? Marcus's stomach dropped. I didn't mean to intrude. I was just following my scanner. Intention is irrelevant, the adjudicator said. The law is clear. Prove your legend or humanity will be marked as a species of pretenders. You will be forbidden from advancing beyond your current borders for the next millennium. Marcus felt his blood run cold. He had just accidentally stumbled into something way above his pay grade. This could affect all of humanity, because he was looking for diabetes medication. Okay, he said slowly. What do I have to do? The adjudicator seemed pleased. 3 trials. Defeat our champion in combat. Solve the paradox of infinite wisdom. Survive 1 hour in the Garden of Teeth. Complete these and humanity's legendary status will be confirmed. Marcus wanted to sit down. He wanted to go home. He wanted to wake up from what had to be a very weird dream. But he looked at all these powerful beings that could probably end humanity with a thought. And he knew he didn't have a choice. Fine, Marcus said. When do we start? The crystal being made a sound like approval. His courage holds even when faced with impossible odds. Perhaps the gate was right after all. Marcus didn't feel courageous. He felt terrified and very, very confused. But he was here now. And somewhere out there, container 4471B was still missing. The Hall of Echoing Eternity transformed around Marcus. The vast space shifted, walls moving like liquid until he stood in what looked like an arena. The floor was solid under his feet but seemed to glow with inner light. Hundreds of the legendary beings floated or stood around the edges, watching. Marcus tried to calm his breathing. He had been in exactly 0 fights in his entire life. Well, 1. But that was in 3rd grade and Kevin Morrison had started it. The first trial begins, the adjudicator announced. Its voice echoed from everywhere. The human will face Warlord Garax the Unbroken, champion of the Krenok, victor of 3,000 consecutive duels. A door opened on the far side of the arena. What walked through made Marcus take several steps backward. The warlord was huge, at least 8 feet tall, maybe more. His body was covered in what looked like natural armor, dark plates that gleamed under the strange light. 4 arms, each ending in hands that could probably crush steel, eyes that glowed red. When he moved, the floor shook slightly. Oh no, Marcus whispered. Oh no, no, no. The human may choose his weapons, the crystal being announced. A wall of light appeared next to Marcus and items began materializing from it. The armory of legends is open to you. Marcus looked at the weapons. There was a sword that seemed to be made of contained starlight. A gun that the description said could pierce dimensional barriers. Armor that was labeled woven from solidified time. A staff that channels the force of collapsing stars. He didn't understand any of it. Marcus had used a stapler yesterday and had struggled with that. "Do you have anything simpler?" he asked. The beings watching murmured to each other. The crystal being seemed confused. "Simpler? These are the finest weapons in 10,000 galaxies." "Yeah, but I don't know how to use them," Marcus said. "Don't you have like a stick or something?" After a moment, a plain metal rod appeared. It was about 3 feet long, solid, heavy. Marcus picked it up. It felt like a pipe. He could understand a pipe. "The human chooses the simplest weapon," one being said with what might have been shock. "Is this confidence or madness?" Warlord Garax laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound. "You insult me, small creature. I have defeated legends with my bare hands. I will make this quick." Marcus gripped the pipe. His hands were sweating. His heart was hammering. "Can we maybe talk about this?" He tried. "The trial begins now," the adjudicator said. Garax charged. He moved fast for something so big all 4 arms spread wide. He was making a sound like a war cry. The floor cracked under his feet. Marcus did the only thing he could think of. He ran. He dodged to the side as Garax thundered past, those massive arms missing him by inches. The warlord turned, surprised. Marcus was already running to the other side of the arena. "Stand and fight," Garax roared. "No, thank you," Marcus shouted back. The legendary beings watching were making various sounds of confusion. This was apparently not how these trials usually went. Garax charged again. Marcus ran again, this time jumping behind a pillar. The warlord smashed into the pillar, which cracked but didn't break. Marcus used the moment to run to yet another part of the arena. He employs evasion tactics, one being observed. "Unconventional, but within the rules. Stop running, coward," Garax bellowed. He was getting angry now, his red eyes brighter. Marcus's lungs were burning. He wasn't built for this. His exercise routine was walking to the cafeteria and back. But he kept running because the alternative was getting smashed by a 4-armed alien warrior. Garax tried a different approach. He began destroying the pillars Marcus was hiding behind, systematically removing cover. Marcus had to get more creative. He climbed onto a raised platform. When Garax came after him, Marcus jumped down and ran underneath it. "I was on the track team in high school," Marcus gasped as he ran. It was true. He had been decent at long distance. That was 15 years ago, but his legs seemed to remember. The warlord was breathing harder now, too. He might be strong, but all that armor and muscle was heavy. He charged again, faster than before, determined to end this. Marcus saw a piece of broken pillar on the ground. Without thinking, he grabbed a handful of the powdered stone it had left behind. When Garax got close, Marcus threw it right in his face. The warlord roared, clawing at his eyes. Marcus saw his chance. He swung the pipe hard at Garax's legs. It connected with a loud clang. The warlord, already off balance from not being able to see, stumbled. His foot caught on a piece of rubble. He fell forward, unable to stop his momentum, and crashed face first into the ground with a sound like thunder. He didn't get up. The arena went completely silent. Marcus stood there, breathing hard, holding his pipe. His whole body was shaking. Did I kill him? "He lives," the adjudicator said. "He is merely unconscious. The trial is complete." Slowly, the legendary beings began making sounds. It took Marcus a moment to realize they were sounds of approval. "Incredible," the crystal being said. He defeated the Unbroken by refusing to engage in traditional combat. He used the environment. He used deception. He adapted constantly. The human turned the warlord's strength against him, another being added. Legendary strategy. Marcus wanted to say that he had just panicked and ran away a lot, but he was too busy trying to catch his breath. The second trial, the adjudicator announced without pause. The paradox of infinite wisdom. The arena transformed again. Now Marcus stood in a dark space with a single light above him. In front of him, words appeared, glowing in the air. What can be everything and nothing, exist in all moments yet be confined to none? Be the answer to every question, yet the question to every answer. Marcus stared at the words. This was the riddle that supposedly stumped the greatest minds in the galaxy for millions of years. Entire civilizations had built religions trying to answer it. He read it again, and again. The beings watched in silence. 10 minutes passed. Marcus's brain hurt. He was tired, scared, and confused. He just wanted to go home. Then something clicked in his mind. He remembered his ex-girlfriend, Sarah. She used to ask him questions like this when she was upset. "What do you want for dinner?" she would ask. But she didn't actually want to know what he wanted for dinner. She wanted him to understand what she was really asking. The question behind the question. Marcus looked up at the glowing words. "This is a trick question," he said. The beings leaned forward with interest. "There's no answer," Marcus continued. "Not because it's too hard, but because it's designed not to have one. It's a paradox. The point isn't to solve it. The point is to realize that some questions don't need solutions. They need to be unasked." The silence that followed was so complete that Marcus could hear his own heartbeat. Then the adjudicator's form shifted, becoming brighter. "In 10 million years, only 3 beings have seen this truth. The human is the third. How did you know?" the crystal being asked, genuine curiosity in its voice. Marcus shrugged, exhausted. "My ex used to ask me impossible questions when she was mad. I learned that sometimes the right answer is realizing there isn't one." He wasn't sure what an ex-girlfriend had to do with cosmic wisdom, but apparently it was the right answer. 2 trials complete, the adjudicator said. 1 remains. The Garden of Teeth awaits. Marcus wanted to ask for a break, maybe some water, definitely a chance to sit down. But before he could speak, the world shifted again. He was no longer in the arena. He was somewhere else entirely. Somewhere that felt wrong in ways he couldn't quite name. The 3rd trial had begun. The Garden of Teeth was not a garden, at least not like any garden Marcus had ever seen. The ground beneath his feet was soft and moved slightly with each step, like walking on something alive. The sky above was a swirling mass of colors that hurt to look at. And everywhere, from the ground and the strange plants around him, were teeth, not regular teeth. These teeth whispered. Marcus stood very still, trying to understand where he was. The air tasted like metal and old fear. 1 hour, a voice said from somewhere. It might have been the adjudicator, or it might have been the garden itself. "Survive 1 hour in the Garden of Teeth, that is the trial." "Survive what?" Marcus asked, but there was no answer. For a few minutes, nothing happened. Marcus looked around carefully. The plants nearby had leaves that looked like hands. The trees had bark that looked like faces. Everything was watching him. Then the whispers started getting louder. They weren't speaking any language Marcus knew, but somehow he understood them anyway. "You're not special," one whisper said. "You'll never amount to anything," said another. Marcus felt his chest tighten. These were familiar thoughts. He had thought them himself plenty of times. The garden shifted. Suddenly, Marcus was standing in his old apartment, the one he had lived in 5 years ago. His mother was there, looking disappointed. "We thought you'd be a doctor," the image of his mother said. "Your brother became a doctor. Your sister became a lawyer. What did you become?" "Someone who counts boxes." "This isn't real," Marcus said quietly, but it felt real. The disappointment in his mother's face looked exactly like he remembered. The scene changed. Now he was in his high school, standing in front of his locker. Other students walked past laughing. None of them looked at him. He was invisible, forgettable. "You were never the smart one," a voice said. "Never the athletic one. Never the popular one. You were just average, just okay, just barely there." Marcus closed his eyes, but that made it worse. Now the voices were clearer. "Sarah left you because you weren't enough," a whisper said. Sarah was his ex-girlfriend. They had dated for 2 years. The breakup had been hard. She said it was about timing, another whisper continued. But really it was about you. You weren't interesting enough, weren't ambitious enough, weren't enough. The garden was showing Marcus every failure, every regret, every moment of self-doubt he had ever had. It was pulling them out of his memories and making them real again. He saw the job interview he had failed, the promotion he didn't get, the friend who slowly stopped calling, the birthday party where only 3 people showed up. Every small hurt, every quiet disappointment, every time he had felt like he wasn't measuring up. "You're 37 years old and you inspect cargo," a voice mocked. "Is this what you dreamed about as a child?" Marcus opened his eyes. The garden had created a mirror. In it he saw himself, but the reflection looked tired and small and ordinary. "Yes," Marcus said out loud. The garden seemed to pause, confused. Yes, I'm 37 and I inspect cargo, Marcus continued. No, it's not what I dreamed about as a kid. I wanted to be an astronaut. But I get motion sickness and I'm not good at math. He looked at the reflection. And yes, I'm average. I know that. I've known that since I was 12. I'm not the smartest or the strongest or the most talented. The whispers grew louder, more urgent, trying to break him. Sarah did leave me, Marcus said. And yeah, maybe it was partly my fault. Maybe I wasn't ambitious enough. Maybe I was boring. But you know what? She wasn't perfect either. Nobody is. He sat down on the ground. The soft moving ground was gross, but he was too tired to care. I didn't get that promotion, he continued, talking to the garden itself now. Tom got it instead. Tom was better at the job. That's okay. I didn't want the extra hours anyway. The garden threw more at him. His father, who had died 3 years ago, appeared. I'm disappointed in you, the image said. You're not my father, Marcus said calmly. My dad told me he was proud of me the day before he died. He said I was kind and I worked hard and that's what mattered. You're just the part of me that doesn't believe that. The image flickered and disappeared. More came. Every insecurity, every fear, every horrible thought Marcus had ever had about himself. The garden was relentless. It showed him futures where he died alone, pasts where people laughed at him, presents where he was forgotten, and Marcus sat there and took it. Because here was the thing about the Garden of Teeth. It was designed to break beings who thought they were special. Beings who had achieved legendary status and built their entire identity on being exceptional. When you show a legend all their flaws, all their failures, all their ordinary moments, it destroys them. But Marcus had never thought he was special to begin with. You know what the worst part is? Marcus said to the empty air. You're right. About all of it. I am average. I do have regrets. I have screwed up. I will probably die without doing anything remarkable. He picked at the ground absently, but I also have friends who like talking to me. I'm good at my job, even if it's not exciting. I make people laugh sometimes. I helped my neighbor move last month. I donate to the animal shelter. I'm learning to cook. These are small things, but they're my things. The garden was throwing everything at him now, desperate to find something that would break him. It showed him cosmic horrors. It showed him the heat death of the universe. It showed him infinite futures where nothing mattered. Marcus watched it all with tired eyes. Yeah, he said. Eventually the universe ends. Eventually everything stops mattering. But that's not today. Today I'm trying to find medical supplies for people who need them. That matters right now. The whispers were screaming now, but they were getting quieter somehow. The garden didn't know what to do with someone who agreed with it. I'm not brave, Marcus said. I'm terrified. This whole thing is terrifying. Those trials were terrifying, but I'm doing it anyway because someone has to. Because if I don't, humanity gets punished for my mistake. He looked up at the swirling sky. That's not legendary. That's just not wanting to let people down. That's just doing the right thing because it needs doing. The garden began to fade. The teeth stopped whispering. The horrible visions melted away. Marcus sat in an empty space that was slowly becoming the arena again. The legendary beings were staring at him. Many of them looked shocked. Some looked confused. A few looked like they might be crying if beings made of light and geometry could cry. He faced the infinite abyss of the self. One being whispered. He saw all his flaws, all his failures, all his insignificance. And he was not destroyed, another added. He simply accepted it all and continued existing. The adjudicator floated forward. Its impossible angles seemed less sharp somehow. The Garden of Teeth breaks those who cannot see themselves truly. It has broken champions. It has broken gods. How did you survive? Marcus stood up slowly. His legs were shaky. I've been living with all those thoughts for years. The garden didn't show me anything new. It just showed me louder, the crystal being made a sound like wind through caves. He has no pride to lose. No legendary status to be stripped away. He simply is what he is and accepts what he is. We do not know how to process this. Have I passed? Marcus asked. He was so tired. He just wanted to go home. All 3 trials are complete, the adjudicator said. The human has proven himself. By ancient law, humanity is recognized as a legendary species. There were sounds of agreement from the assembled beings. Marcus felt like he should be happy about this, but mostly he felt exhausted and confused. Great, he said. Can I go home now? There are formalities, the crystal being began. Ceremonies, declarations, the recording of humanity's legend in the great archives. This process typically takes several cycles. Several what? Marcus asked. How long is a cycle? Approximately one of your weeks, the being replied. Marcus's face went pale. Weeks? No. I need to go now. I have work tomorrow. I have reports due. I need to feed my cat. The beings looked at each other with confusion. He had just passed impossible trials, proven his species legendary, and he was worried about a cat and reports. This makes no sense, one being said. But Marcus was already looking around for an exit. There has to be a way out. How do I leave? Do I go back through that door? His scanner, which had been quiet this whole time, suddenly beeped. Marcus looked at it. One message on the screen. New message from J. Rodriguez, Janet, his supervisor. She had probably noticed he was missing. Oh no, Marcus said. Janet's going to kill me. I'm so fired. I'm so incredibly fired. The legendary beings, who could reshape reality and travel between dimensions, who had existed for millions of years and seen the birth and death of galaxies, had no idea what to do with a human who had just become a legend and was now worried about being fired. The adjudicator made what might have been a sigh. Perhaps we should speak to these other humans. Janet Rodriguez was having the worst day of her career. First, Marcus hadn't shown up for his shift. Marcus was never late. Then his scanner went offline. Then station security couldn't find him anywhere. And now she was receiving an incoming message from something that called itself the Galactic Council of Mythics. She had contacted everyone she could think of. The station commander, Earth government, the new ambassador to the nearby Neighbors Trade Alliance. Nobody knew what to do with this. So Janet did what she always did when there was a problem. She handled it herself. The diplomatic ship arrived 6 hours after Marcus disappeared. It was small by the standards of the massive station, barely larger than a commercial transport. Janet was on it, along with Ambassador Williams, who had been dragged out of a meeting about mining rights. Explain this to me again, the ambassador said as they approached the coordinates the council had sent. One of your cargo inspectors is being held by ancient aliens? I don't know if held is the right word, Janet said. The message said something about trials and legendary status. It didn't make much sense. None of this makes sense, Ambassador Williams muttered. He was a tall man with gray hair and the permanent look of someone dealing with a headache. We've been in space for 30 years and nothing this weird has happened yet. The coordinates led them to a point in empty space. There was nothing there. Just stars and darkness, then something appeared. A doorway made of light and patterns that hurt to look at. The ship's computer made alarmed beeping sounds. Do we go through? The pilot asked nervously. We don't have much choice, Janet said. The ship went through. On the other side was the Hall of Echoing Eternity. The pilot immediately started swearing. Ambassador Williams' face went very pale. Janet just stared. There are so many of them, she whispered. Beings of light and energy and stranger things floated or stood throughout the massive space. In the center, looking tired and rumpled, was Marcus. Janet, Marcus called out. Thank God. Can you please explain to them that this was a mistake? Janet's relief at seeing him alive lasted exactly 3 seconds before it was replaced by anger. Marcus Chen! Where have you been? Do you know how many reports I've had to file? Station security thinks you were kidnapped. I kind of was, Marcus said. But also I wasn't. It's complicated. The adjudicator floated forward. Ambassador Williams made a small squeaking sound. Greetings, humans. We have been evaluating this one. He has proven himself in 3 trials. Humanity is now recognized as a legendary species. Janet blinked several times. What? See, I tried to tell them it was a mistake, Marcus said. But they made me fight this huge warrior guy and solve a riddle and sit in a horrible garden and... You fought someone? Janet interrupted. Marcus, you once called me because you saw a spider in the break room. It was a really big spider, Marcus protested. Ambassador Williams found his voice. Excuse me, hello, I'm Ambassador Williams. Could someone please explain what's happening? Slowly, the crystal being floated forward. The human called Marcus entered our hall through the predecessor gate. This gate has not opened in 10,000 of your years. It opens only for legendary species. Therefore, we concluded that humans must be legendary. But I just walked through a door, Marcus said for what felt like the 100th time. You walked through a door that has denied entry to gods. Another being said. That requires explanation. Janet was trying to process this. So you made him do trials? To prove humanity is legendary? Without asking us? Without any diplomatic discussion? It is ancient law, the adjudicator stated. Any who enter the hall must prove themselves or face judgment. That's insane, Janet said. Then she realized she was talking to beings that could probably destroy planets. I mean, that's an interesting system, but did you consider that maybe your door is just broken? Several beings made sounds of shock at this suggestion. The door does not break, one said. It is beyond breaking. Everything breaks eventually, Janet replied. I work in logistics. I've seen unbreakable equipment break all the time. Marcus nodded enthusiastically. That's what I said. Ambassador Williams was looking around the hall, his diplomat training finally kicking in. Let's set aside the door issue for a moment. You said humanity is now recognized as legendary. What does that mean exactly? The crystal being began explaining. It means you may participate in the Council of Mythics. It means you are acknowledged as a species that has achieved greatness beyond normal limits. It means a lot of work, another being interrupted. Responsibilities. Expectations. The legendary species are called upon to handle threats to the galaxy, to mediate conflicts between lesser species, to face dangers that would destroy normal civilizations. Lesser species? Janet said sharply. I don't like that term. It is simply categorical, the geometric being said. Species are ranked by achievement. The legendary, the notable, the emerging, the primitive. No offenses meant, well, offenses taken, Janet said. And I'm going to stop you right there. Humanity doesn't want to be legendary. We just want to do our jobs and not get blown up. Marcus was looking for medical supplies. That's it. This whole thing is a mistake. The hall went silent. This was apparently not the response they expected. You reject legendary status? The adjudicator asked, sounding confused. This is unprecedented. No, I'm saying you made a mistake, Janet said. Your door malfunctioned. It let through a regular person. We're not hiding some secret power. We're just normal. The beings began talking among themselves again. Ambassador Williams leaned over to Janet. Are you sure this is a good strategy? They seem powerful. Maybe we should accept their offer. And commit humanity to fighting galaxy-ending threats? Janet whispered back. I read the contract law. If we accept legendary status, we're bound by their rules. Oh, thank you. The crystal being floated closer. We cannot accept that the door malfunctioned. But we are curious. Tell us about your species. About Earth. Janet looked at Marcus. Marcus shrugged. I tried explaining. They just got more convinced we're special. Fine, Janet said. What do you want to know? Your world, one being said. Earth. Our database calls it a Class 9 hazard world. Why do you live there? Because that's where we evolved, Janet said. Where else would we live? Most species that evolve on hazard worlds die out or escape as quickly as possible, the being said. You stayed. You built your civilization there. You call it home. Well, yeah, Janet said. It's nice. We have trees, and oceans, and mountains. Oceans, the geometric being said. You mean large bodies of liquid hydrogen oxide. And you live next to them. Voluntarily? We swim in them, Marcus added helpfully. For fun. The beings made various sounds of disbelief. Ambassador Williams was starting to see where this was going. What's wrong with water? He asked carefully. It is corrosive to many species, one being said. It facilitates chemical reactions. It is difficult to control. Most species view water worlds with fear. And your atmosphere, another being added. 20% oxygen. Oxygen is violently reactive. It causes combustion. How do you survive breathing it? We need it to live, Janet said, now thoroughly confused. Don't you need to breathe? Not oxygen, the crystal being said. Oxygen is dangerous. And your planet has tectonic activity. The ground moves. It cracks open. It creates explosions of molten rock. Volcanoes, Marcus said. Yeah, we have those. You just don't build houses on them. You went to space using chemical explosions, another being said. Controlled fire to propel you away from your planet. No energy shielding. No safety fields. You could have died from a small malfunction. Well, some people did die, Ambassador Williams admitted. Space exploration is dangerous. Before you had faster-than-light travel, the geometric being continued, you sent exploration missions that would take years, decades, knowing you might never return. Why? To explore, Janet said simply. To learn. To see what was out there. You risked death for curiosity, the adjudicator said. Not for resources. Not for survival. For knowledge. Is that weird? Marcus asked. The beings looked at each other. The crystal being spoke softly. Most species explore by necessity. For new homes when theirs fails. For resources when theirs run out. You explored while your world was still abundant. While you were still thriving. You risked death out of curiosity. You also domesticated predators, another being said. Our records show creatures called dogs. They are descended from pack hunters that could have killed you. And you made them into companions. You let them live in your homes with your young. Dogs are great, Marcus said. I have a cat, though. She's probably really mad I haven't fed her. A cat, the being repeated. Another predator. Smaller, but still capable of harm. And you keep it for companionship, not food. Not labor, companionship. Janet was starting to understand. You think we're weird. We think you are extraordinary and do not realize it, the crystal being said. Every fact we learn about humans makes you seem more remarkable. You survive conditions that would kill most species. You befriend your predators. You explore from curiosity. You risk death for small gains. You face the abyss and shrug at it. We're just living our lives, Janet said. None of that seems special to us. Precisely, the adjudicator said. You do not see your own legend because you are living it. The negotiations took 3 more hours. Janet was good at her job, and her job often involved getting stubborn people to see reason. The Council of Mythics turned out to be very stubborn. We cannot simply let him leave, the adjudicator said. He has been acknowledged. There are ceremonies, records to update, speeches to give. He has a job, Janet said firmly. He has responsibilities. And frankly, you should have thought about that before you trapped him here and made him fight people. It was not intended as a trap, the crystal being said, sounding somewhat apologetic. The law is ancient. We have always followed it. Well, maybe it's time to update your law, Janet said. Things change. Rules need to change with them. This caused a lot of discussion among the beings. The idea that ancient laws might need updating seemed revolutionary to them. Ambassador Williams had been quietly taking notes. I have a proposal, he said. What if humanity accepts a modified legendary status? We acknowledge that you believe we're special. You acknowledge that we don't want all the responsibility that comes with it. And we agree to communicate if something major happens. No mandatory quests, no forced participation, just open dialogue. The beings considered this. This is highly irregular, one said. Everything about this situation is irregular, Janet pointed out. Marcus walked through a door by accident. Nothing about this is normal procedure. The geometric being shifted its shapes thoughtfully. The human makes a valid point. We have already broken precedent by having a non-legendary species enter the hall. Perhaps we can break precedent in how we resolve this. After more discussion, they reached an agreement. Humanity would be listed as honored observers with full speaking rights instead of full legendary members. They could participate in council discussions if they wanted, but there were no mandatory duties. In exchange, humanity agreed to share information about their species and culture. This is acceptable, the adjudicator said, though we reserve the right to study humans further. You are fascinating. Please don't study us too closely, Ambassador Williams said nervously. Marcus was finally allowed to leave. As he walked toward the doorway that would take them back to their ship, the crystal being called out to him. Human Marcus Chen. You faced impossible trials and succeeded through methods we did not anticipate. You are worthy of your legend. Marcus turned back. I was just trying not to die. And to get back to work. Precisely, the being said. You face the extraordinary with thoughts of the ordinary. That is your power. Marcus wasn't sure what to say to that, so he just nodded and left. The trip back to the station was quiet at first. Then Janet turned to Marcus. 3 days. You were missing for 3 days. Do you know how much paperwork this generated? I'm really sorry, Marcus said. The door just opened and I thought that the medical supplies were on the other side. Janet finished. I know. They were in the cafeteria storage the whole time, mislabeled. Marcus put his head in his hands. All of this, everything, and the container was in the cafeteria. Yep, Janet said. Someone logged them as food supplies instead of medical. I've already filed a complaint. Ambassador Williams was still writing notes. This is going to require so many reports. The government is going to have questions. The media is going to be impossible. And we're now officially in contact with some kind of ancient cosmic council. Can we not tell anyone? Marcus asked hopefully. Not a chance, William said. This is first contact with a major galactic power. It's huge news, he was right. When they got back to the station, Marcus was immediately pulled into debriefing. Then more debriefing, then interviews, then meetings with government officials who had traveled from Earth. For 3 weeks, Marcus was famous. His face was on news feeds. People wanted to interview him. Schools wanted him to give talks. He hated every second of it. I'm not a hero, he told one interviewer. I was lost. I got lucky. That's all. But the interviewer didn't want to hear that. Nobody wanted to hear that. They wanted stories of bravery and triumph. They wanted him to be special. After a month, Marcus quietly requested a transfer. He moved to Station Kepler 442, a smaller outpost on the far edge of human space. Fewer people. Less attention. Back to inspecting cargo and filing reports. Janet approved the transfer without comment, though she sent him a message that just said I understand and a picture of her giving a thumbs up. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council began their study of humanity. They sent observers. They asked questions. They learned about human culture, and every answer confused them more. They learned that humans had something called pizza, and would argue for hours about which type was correct. They learned about coffee, which humans claimed was essential for functioning. They learned that humans domesticated animals for no practical reason other than they're cute. They learned about movies, where humans watched other humans pretend to be different humans. I do not understand, one observer reported back. They have created fiction where they imagine being attacked by aliens. For entertainment. They find fear enjoyable in controlled settings. They also have stories where they befriend aliens, another observer added. Sometimes the same human will enjoy both types of stories. Their psychology is contradictory. The council studied human music, human art, human history. The more they learned, the less they understood. Humans were violent but also compassionate, logical but also emotional, capable of great cruelty and great kindness, often from the same individuals. They are a paradox, the crystal being finally concluded, and they live comfortably within that paradox. 6 months after the incident, the council sent a formal request to humanity. They wanted better signage and navigation protocols to prevent future accidents. The request caused a 3-month debate in the council about what signage was and whether it would actually help. They still weren't sure. Meanwhile, Marcus was working his shift on Station Kepler 442. He was tracking a shipment of industrial lubricants. His scanner started glitching again, pointing him toward a corridor he hadn't seen before. Marcus looked at the corridor. It had the same shimmer as the one 6 months ago. The same golden light. He could see patterns moving on the walls. He looked at his scanner, looked at the corridor, looked back at his scanner. Nope, Marcus said out loud. He turned around and took the stairs instead. The corridor shimmered for a moment as if disappointed, then faded away. Later that day, Marcus found the lubricants in the correct storage bay. He filed his report, had dinner in the cafeteria, something that was probably meant to be pasta, and went back to his quarters. His cat, which he had brought with him to the new station, meowed at him accusingly for being 10 minutes late with dinner. Sorry, Princess, Marcus said, opening a can of cat food. Work was busy. Princess, who definitely did not care about galactic councils or legendary status, ate her dinner, and then demanded attention. Marcus sat on his couch, cat on his lap, and watched a movie about humans fighting robot aliens. It was perfectly ordinary, exactly what he wanted. Across the galaxy, the council was receiving a new message from humanity. Their representative wanted to discuss ground rules for interaction. The representative was a retired Marine named Sarah Kim, who had been chosen specifically because she didn't care about legendary beings and treated everyone the same. Her opening statement to the council was simple. Right, listen up. We're going to set some ground rules, and the first one is, stop assuming we're testing you. Sometimes we're just confused. The council spent the next meeting trying to determine if this was a test. They concluded it probably was because humans were deeply mysterious. The fact that the human representative had specifically said it wasn't a test only convinced them more that it definitely was a test. Back on Station Kepler 442, Marcus finished his movie and got ready for bed. Tomorrow he had a full shift. 3 container ships were arriving, and someone had to inspect the cargo. Someone had to make sure everything was labeled correctly and stored properly. Someone had to file the reports. It wasn't glamorous work. It wasn't legendary. But it was important, and Marcus was good at it. That was enough. As he fell asleep, he thought briefly about the Hall of Echoing Eternity, about beings of light and energy, about impossible trials and cosmic mysteries. It all seemed very far away now, like a strange dream. His last thought before sleep was that he needed to remember to order more cat food. Princess was running low. The galaxy thought humanity was legendary for surviving death worlds and befriending predators, and exploring from curiosity. They thought humans were special because they faced the impossible with casual determination. They weren't wrong exactly. But they also weren't right. Humans were just living their lives, doing their jobs, taking care of their cats, arguing about pizza, making mistakes and fixing them, being scared but doing things anyway, finding meaning in small moments. That was the real human legend. Not that they could do extraordinary things, but that they did ordinary things in extraordinary circumstances and didn't see what the fuss was about. Marcus Chen, cargo inspector, would have agreed with that. But he was asleep now, dreaming about nothing in particular, while his cat purred on his chest and the stars turned slowly outside his window. And somewhere in the Hall of Echoing Eternity, the Galactic Council continued trying to understand humanity.